The oldest and strongest human emotion is fear. And the oldest and strongest type of fear is trepidation of the unknown. When we were children, our parents told us that monsters didn't exist. But we were sure that something was lurking under the bed or in the closet. Fear sees, even if our eyes are closed. Welcome to the realm of the arcane. My name is Lon Strickler. Join me as I examine unexplained creatures, strange manifestations, and remarkable realities. Imagine this next hour as a voyage of discovery to strange lands, seeking not for new territory, but for new knowledge of the supernatural. Come on board as we begin this adventure together. Hey folks, good evening and welcome to another episode of Arcane Radio, where we explore the unexplained here on the Paranormal King Radio Network. Now, I'm your host, Lon Strickler, coming to you within a cannon shot of historic Gettysburg in the mysterious state of Pennsylvania. I thank you for joining me. Now, before I start with my guest this evening, I'm just going to talk about a case that I received recently. It was a telephone call I got from a woman who I'll refer to as Lucy. Now, she's a woman of Navajo heritage who once lived in the town of Lovington, New Mexico. As a child, and in this instance at the age of 8, Lucy and her friends would play on school grounds near her house. Now, there was also a small grocery store with a large porch where kids would spend a lot of time. Her mother had credit there, so Lucy was allowed to just go ahead and purchase candy whenever she wanted to. The grocery store also had a butchered meat, so they had a small butcher shop. So during the summer day in early 1980s, someone or something vandalized the grocery store while the owners were on vacation. Now, the front door had been torn through, and there was a large hole in the floor of the front porch. As well, a majority of the butchered meat was stolen. So when the owners returned home, they started to blame the local residents for the theft and vandalism. Now, this was very much out of character for the people in this small town. And everybody depended on the grocery store. So besides, it was a friendly, tight-knit community, and crime was very rare. So there were never any charges brought up against anybody, and the store eventually closed and moved out of Lovington into another town. So the grocery store building was just left and it was abandoned. So one early morning, a few months later, Lucy and her younger sister were home alone after her parents had rushed Lucy's older sister to the hospital, which was several miles away. Lucy's sister had a ruptured appendix the night before and needed immediate treatment. So Lucy was sleeping on the couch in the living room while her younger sister was fast asleep on the floor. Now, Lucy was awoke by a loud creaking sound outside the front door. She raised up from the couch and thought she had seen a large hairy head and shoulders in the window. Alarmed, Lucy immediately pulled the covers over her head while hoping this thing would just go away. She continued to hear noises on the porch, and once again, she noticed the large hairy head and shoulders standing in the window. It would duck down below the window, then slowly raise up. By this time, Lucy had become curious and thought that her cousins may have been playing a prank on her. So her little sister was still asleep on the floor. So Lucy got off the couch and walked to the window and peeked out. And she was amazed to see a huge hairy man swiftly striding towards the side of the house in the direction of the school. Now Lucy ran to the door, stepped out barefoot, and began to run after this large hairy man. She was sure that someone was trying to scare her, and she was somewhat fearless when she was young, but she was going to find out who it was. So Lucy ran past school and made her way to the abandoned grocery store. She heard noises coming from inside the building. She stepped up onto the porch and immediately felt a sharp stabbing pain in her right foot. She quickly sat down on the porch and saw that she had stepped on a large splinter. She was in terrible pain, and as she tried to remove the splinter, while the tears flowed down her cheek. Then, without warning, a large hairy hand reached from behind her and pointed at her injured foot. Now, Lucy commented that the fingernails were black and that the hand was the size of a catcher's mitt with thick fingers. She said that she was not afraid of the hairy man, but did not like the way it smelled. She looked up and saw a face of an ape-like man with long, dark, reddish hair falling over it and from the top of the head. The skin was like that of a tan Caucasian man, but mostly rugged looking. The eyes were round and honey-colored. She reached up and pulled on the hair, wanting to see if this was not a costume. She yanked it hard enough that the hairy man grimaced in a way that indicated that he did not like that, but she also noticed compassion as well. The hairy man then picked up Lucy in his arms and cradled her like a baby. He rose to his feet and quickly walked in the direction of her house, occasionally stopping near a pine tree in order to see if anyone else was watching him. Lucy was afraid that the hairy man was going to kidnap her, but was relieved when they reached her house. He gently lowered her on the porch and watched as she tried to remove the splinter from her foot. Then the hairy man quickly turned as if he heard something approaching. He ran off towards a large grove of pine trees and was gone. In a minute or two, the local police car was making its way down the road. Lucy said that she could always tell it was the police because they had the one patrol car, and it always made a loud squeaking noise when it drove by. The hairy man must have heard it from a distance and ran off. Now, Lucy now believes that the hairy man was responsible for the break-in at the grocery store. She estimates that this hairy man was about 8 foot in height and covered in long, thick, reddish hair that seemed to slightly change in hue when it moved. Lucy said that she never saw a hairy man again, but she did see a smaller, hairy biped a few years ago while she was driving home at night, and that was in West Texas. Her account is not widely known, and as she never told anybody other than her daughter, and her daughter had recently encouraged her to come forward. So that led to her calling me. So it's an interesting story. And actually, it's the second story that I received directly from witnesses in the last couple of weeks where the witnesses actually picked up, was injured, and taken either home or to another location by a Bigfoot. So very interesting. Well, anyway, tonight I welcome the members, or some of the members of Phantoms Monsters Fortean Research to Arcane Radio. We're going to be discussing current cases and updates, as well as try to answer some of your questions that you can post in the chat room. I'd like to introduce Tobias Wayland, Marcus Ellis, and one of our newest team members, Luis Castillo. So, guys, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Great to be on.
Now, Luis, you're the newest to the bunch. I haven't had you on the show yet. So kind of tell folks a little bit of your background as far as what you enjoyed doing, as far as I think probably, I guess the best is talk about Bigfoot.
Well, being out here in California, I think I'm the only member who's out here on the West Coast. I've been, you could say, investigating everything from ghosts to Bigfoot to when I tried to get into UFOs since 2007. I used to have a team that would investigate from this side of the United States, and the farthest we went was to Paris, France. We've investigated other states in the country, but then eventually, as with all teams, they started doing a little bit of infighting. And so that was, took the team apart, left the whole paranormal community for a few years, and just focused on on things on my own with one other person. And I found that working with a team of only 2 people instead of 5 or 6 or 20 is a lot better. So, you don't get the messages mixed. In regards to Bigfoot, it's been one of those things, growing up in the 70s, it was one of the things I love to watch, and I really read everything I could on the big hairy guy. And you could just say it's a love of mine that I've yet to experience, you know, personally, except I think some of you guys may have. The closest I ever got to something like it is when camping with a brother-in-law. He saw something, and when he came back, he had most of his clothing all ripped because he was running through the
Wow.
bushes and the branches. And, long story short, what he said he saw was he had left that morning for a hike, and he came upon a clearing, and on the other end of this clearing, he saw a reddish, what he thought was a bear, sitting at a trunk of a tree that had fallen. So he wanted to get closer to it to see it, and I guess he stepped on a branch and made a noise. And at that moment, it turned around and it saw him. And then, at first, he still thought it was a bear until it got up and turned around completely and started walking towards him. And that's when he said, "Well, I need to leave." And it didn't catch it. It didn't get him because it didn't want to. But he felt that as he was running back to camp, it would keep him within a certain parameter as to where he could go and where he couldn't go. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, and by the time he came through, he, like I said, he was bleeding. His clothes were all ripped up because the branches catching on to him. And so that just furthered me into, looking for this guy. So that's how I got into it. Bigfoot was the start of it.
Well, you and I had met back in 2017 at the Pennsylvania Bigfoot camping adventure, and now
Yeah.
I wasn't able to be there the last one. I don't know if you were there or not, but
No, I couldn't make it either.
yeah, you do occasionally get to the East Coast, so hopefully we're going to get together sometime and meet up, and I guess we'll exchange war stories.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of war stories to spread. I've told you some of them from here, and
Yeah.
I'll tell you some of the other ones I've had in the other states and in Paris, and it gets interesting.
Cool.
It's interesting to see how each state or how each country looks at the paranormal and how they look at it. They look at it differently from each other.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's good to have you on the team too, Lou, because I do need somebody out there, and I do know you, so and I know you're dedicated to what you do, so it's great to have you on the team.
Thank you.
So we also have Marcus Ellis with us. Marcus was on the show a little over a month ago. So Marcus, anything new lately?
Yeah. It's not Bigfoot related, but it's UFO related.
Wow.
I had some. Well, my good friend and my mentor M.K. Davis called me up kind of excitedly this one particular night a few weeks back and said, "Hey, are you aware of this happening in our home city of Yazoo City, Mississippi?" And I'm like, "No." And he proceeded to tell me about it. And it was a huge UFO sighting that occurred here that basically was squashed. It was squashed by, I don't know, some of the business people and, our founding fathers. And the crazy thing about this case, and I'm just now starting to dig into the historical aspect of it and the background of it, but it happened within a week to the night of the 1973 Pascagoula UFO abduction with Calvin Parker and Charles Hicks. So that has really got a lot of my attention and a lot of my focus right now because 1973 we had here in the southeast we had just it was a flap. I mean that's just the best way you can say it.
Yeah, it was the same way up here in Pennsylvania. For whatever reason, 73 was nuts. There was just a lot of reports going on, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know what happened or what caused all that, but you're right. 73 was a busy year.
It was a wild one, and our weather has been so bad down here in Mississippi. We've got road closures, we got roads collapsing. It's really like right here in the Yazoo City, Yazoo County area. We've got two major highways that are messed up, and we got stuff down south from us in the Vicksburg area that's really, really bad. So as far as the Bigfoot and the cryptid side of things, we really haven't had a whole lot of chance to get out because, like you were talking about y'all's weather, Lon, it's been nuts down here. I mean, it's really hampered the ability to get into the field and see what's going on.
Yeah. I hear that from a lot of people all over North America, especially the last couple of years, where there's definitely a climate issue. I mean, things just seem to be going haywire, and it is somewhat difficult to get out this time of year, but maybe we get lucky sometimes and get out there, but it does tend to be an issue. So, so Tobias Wayland has been with the group now. I guess you came in right at the beginning of the Chicago humanoid flap. So Tobias, what's been going on with you lately?
Oh boy. Well, I guess pretty similarly to everybody else. I mean, winters are usually pretty rough up in Wisconsin here. So, I haven't done a lot of field work, but, I'm sure I have some field stuff that we haven't talked about before. I mean, we've been going into the southern unit of the Kettle Moraine State Forest with Jay Bachochin now for months, most of 2019. And the last time we went out there with them would have been last November. And it was nothing short of amazing, frankly. And we almost always experience something whenever we go out there. And, this is an area known for Bigfoot and Dogman sightings, but it's also known for anomalous orbs and that sort of like related UFO phenomena. And so we've seen, I haven't really had any Dogman experiences to speak of out there. Excuse me. I've had certainly some possibly like Bigfoot related stuff. We've seen those orbs out there, which is pretty amazing, frankly, to see it with your own eyes. So last time we were out there, actually, this past November, we actually caught one of them on camera, which was stunning to see later. So it was towards the end of our hike, and I'm sort of out ahead, and with me is Adam Benedict of the Pine Barrens Institute. And then my niece was there, and behind us on the trail quite a ways, Jay and Emily were kind of bringing up the rear there. And I happened to be looking straight ahead, and Jay and Emily were actually looking ahead too. My niece and Adam were both looking off the sides of the trail, and I see right in front of us this huge bright white orb, and it looks like it just sort of flashes into existence at the top of the tree line, and then it goes down through the trees and disappears before it hits the ground. And I sat there for a second, and then I yelled something that probably has too many expletives for me to say on the air here, but it was something to see, because this thing, it wasn't a meteor, it wasn't ball lightning. It absolutely was some kind of anomalous glowing white orb that just went down through these trees. And the reason that I'm so sure of that is because as I was watching it, I could see the light coming off of it illuminating these trees, and it was illuminating the trees behind it. So if it was just something in the sky, like, there's no way it would ever do that, And now this is the same area where we've all seen strange red lights, very similar to the red lights reported, what was it, far south Chicago, or maybe it was on the Indiana side there, where that witness saw the two red lights out in that golf course area.
Yeah,
like very similar to that. Now, I've never seen anything that looks like eyes. Emily and Jay both have. I've seen a single red light that was just up in the trees, but yeah. So there's been some of that. I've heard, and I guess this is something that is often associated with Bigfoot sightings. But I've heard what sounded like it was basically a gibberish conversation. It sounded like people were talking to each other. But it was just total gibberish, and by gibberish, I don't mean like a language I didn't understand. It just sounded like total gibberish. It was talking, but it didn't sound like any human language that I had ever heard. Boy, what else? There's so much. Honestly, there was one time where we had set up. Because sometimes, like we'll often go hiking through there, but also sometimes we'll just kind of camp out for a minute. Like, say we'll set up some chairs on the trail or something. We always go out at night, so it's pretty isolated. There's nobody else out there with us, and which is good, obviously. And I remember one time, we were sitting out there on this trail, and I swear, like I saw something out of the corner of my eye, and I didn't think too much of it. But then, maybe a second or two later, I hear this loud huff, and I swear to God, it's right behind me, like right behind me. And I spin around, and there's nothing there, nothing. And maybe something like a deer or something could have made a sound like that. But the thing is, like, where was it? It was so close that I swear that I could feel its breath, and yet I turn around and there's just nothing there. And so, now that the weather hopefully is gonna turn around for us soon, I think we're going to be looking at more spring temperatures next month, when March rolls around. So I'm pretty excited to get back out there. We've taken our spirit boxes with us every time too. And we've gotten some very interesting results as well. And it's just bizarre stuff, really, where, I don't think that what we're communicating with is human. I'll just say that. Just the stuff that comes through there.
Well, as many of you and people listening to us know, that I guess one of the main cases cases, this is just a conglomerate of cases, has been what's been going on in and around Chicago over the past couple of years. And recently, I had received another the older case from 2006 of a sighting of a caped wing humanoid just outside of O'Hara International. And why we're receiving all this information, these sightings and such in and around O'Hara International is just bizarre to me. Then of course we had that other sighting, which was reported by Manuel on January 23rd of the UFO and the ascending humanoid from the cemetery that's on the O'Hara property. For one thing, I think there may be a connection. I just get this kind of sixth sense that maybe this humanoid or whatever this was that happened to be in that little graveyard on O'Hara International property is seen being raised, or I don't know if say abducted, but picked up by a large oval or UFO. So I don't know, guys. What do you think? You think there may be a connection there somehow?
Well, I think there possibly is a connection.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Lou.
All I was going to say is I think there may be a connection because remember, a few years back you had that UFO at O'Hara's airport.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you get this tidal wave of Mothman activity all in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm not out there, but it just seems that one may have something to do with the other.
I don't know. I mean, I wish we would have got a better description of either the person or the humanoid that was raised up into the craft. I mean, if this guy would have said this thing had wings on it, I'd been pretty positive there was something connected. But, I mean, that wasn't the case. I just feel there's something really bizarre connected somehow. What do you think, Marcus?
Well, when you go back and you look at, look at the works of John Keel. Mm-hmm. When John Keel, first started, pretty much everything to him in the UFO area, flying saucers, whatever, they were nuts and bolts craft. It was the extraterrestrial hypothesis all the way for him, but when he started really investigating and looking into it, that's when what we refer to as the high strangeness factor started kicking in. Mm-hmm. Winged humanoids, things that would harken back to the wee folk, the little people, and that eventually led the way to the ultra-terrestrial viewpoint that him and Dr. Jacques Vallée wound up leaning towards. I mean, my point is there were so many things like flying saucers, UFOs, Mothman, other types of weird creatures that it was just truly bizarre. But this was all happening like in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. But he saw this in other places as well. So is it connected? That is the $64 question, but it would certainly, pop up from time to time, and he began to really take note of that. And that's one of the things that I look for, like in what I've been doing. When I started going out with M.K. Davis, it was strictly from a cryptid Bigfoot standpoint. But as we started, working together and going to a lot of the Indian mounds and things that are here in the South and going to different places, we're having different types of phenomena come at us, and we're looking for Bigfoot. I mean, for example, we're investigating Bigfoot, and we have a UFO sighting, which I managed to get photographs of. So, I've been out by myself, as I talked about, I think in the the first show that you allowed me to come on and do. I've been out again investigating cryptid activity, and I would have something that was just pure paranormal, demonic, a residual type, haunting type situation I felt. So when you step out into the field, looking for whatever your I guess you would say your I don't know, I guess say in my case my favorite thing to go look for, bam, you get hit with something that you're not out there looking for.
Right.
So is there a connection? I can't blame you for asking that question, Lon. It's a real good one.
Well, I guess anybody that seriously starts looking into cryptids and other phenomena associated with the paranormal will soon find out there does seem to be something connected. I mean, that these genres of the paranormal are connected somehow. I think you'd agree with that, wouldn't you, Tobias?
I absolutely would. It's interesting, really, that Marcus mentioned John Keel too, because I've seen some of that sort of mirrored in my own progression at the. I actually started as a field investigator with the Mutual UFO Network, and I very much thought that UFOs, some anyway, represented nuts and bolts extraterrestrial spacecraft, and over the past 10, 15 years, like my opinion on that has changed pretty profoundly, and certainly the events around Lake Michigan have reinforced that change, if nothing else. I mean, these things they're connected, certainly. As far as the strength of that connection, I mean, I think that's what's arguable. I mean, we know that that we have all of these anomalous phenomena happening in close geographic proximity, and so is that connection, is it direct? I mean, is there a direct link? Are they somehow working together, or are we talking about something that is only as connected as, say, a bear and a wolf that both live in the same forest? It's hard to say, but I don't think that it is completely unrelated. I mean, there's just no way.
Well, speaking of Chicago, I received a report this morning, which I'm actually investigating. And I don't know, I think a few guys might have seen the photographs that were sent to me of the tracks in the snow of this, whatever this thing was. It had like two long talons in the front and a talon extending from the back. That's how it was described to the witness's son, who called me. And he said it measured lengthwise about the size of a man's size 11 shoe. So, looking at those, and I don't know, Tobias, if you saw them or not, but I think they kind of look similar to what was photographed up in Woodstock. What do you think?
Now I'll have to. I don't think I have seen those yet, but
I posted them this morning. So
okay,
I don't. You probably didn't know if you were online or anything, but I got a series of photographs from the backyard. This happened at an area around 62nd and Pauline Avenue, just south of Little Village, where this woman saw this thing in the backyard. And there's also a picture of the backyard where this 6-foot fence is, and she actually stated that the black being, and she said it was all black, was the height of the fence, and the wings spread out that covered the the gate of the fence, and the gate are two doors that measure 12 feet in width. So, the one thing I need to find out, and a few other things, is were the wings bat-like? I haven't heard that yet. But this apparently, and I don't know, some of you, I think Luis saw it, especially the tracks. They're kind of bizarre. I have no idea what this thing is. But, the track that we got, the one track that we did get from Woodstock was, from what we could see of it, looked like it was maybe two-toed and kind of narrowed to the back. So I don't know if it's the same thing or not.
Yeah, so those footprints were pretty freaky to look at. I mean, you're right when you say. Yeah, I mean, I'd
have to see them.
Go ahead, Luis.
No, I was just saying those are some freaky footsteps because you could see the two, I guess you could say two claws in the front, and then towards the rear where the heel would be, it ends up kind of pointy. Yeah. And I was like, what this is, there's nothing like I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's different. Tobias, were you able to go over there and look at it? I posted it on our on the team thread.
Oh, sorry, you're kind of breaking up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
sorry, I'm trying to pull it up right now here.
Well, I mean, the witness seemed to think, and apparently from what his mother stated, that this thing was all over the yard. And, I mean, you can see that it looked like it was actually chasing something. So I don't know what she saw exactly, but hopefully I'm going to get some more information. Wow. Yeah, what do you think?
Well, I mean, some of those now, I mean, some of the tracks look like there's potential, I guess, for it to be something relatively mundane. I mean, I've seen similar tracks, not exactly the same because these look too narrow, but they're almost a similar shape to if you see like jackrabbit tracks in the snow, where it's like literally just kind of the imprint of a rabbit. But what's unusual about these footprints, I'm looking at them right now, is how narrow they are. Comparatively. So that's really unusual. Now, the single footprint that I found when Emily and I went down to Woodstock looked like a distorted, elongated, like barefoot human footprint. So it was probably 3 times as big as my own footprint, and I wear a size 12. And you could see like articulated humanoid toes at the end of it. So, I mean, it was pretty dissimilar to this, whatever it is. Yeah, I guess I don't know what to make of these. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was kind of shocked when I first saw it. And if you look at the stride, there is some differences in stride, but and that's the first thing I thought of, jackrabbit, because I've seen rabbit, prints in the snow before, and they can look like very similar to that, but the fact that some of these strides are over 3 foot. Now, I realize a rabbit can jump, but consistently like that, I don't know. I'm not positive, but it is interesting, and the fact that this woman did see this thing, it kind of tends to be a connection.
I was just going to say what's interesting about these two is that they have like a jackrabbit track is in a straight line, right. But with these tracks, you've got something that looks like it has the gait of a biped,
Right.
where the tracks are staggered. So, one will be a little bit more to the left, one will be to the right. They're not in a straight line like you would expect a rabbit moving through snow to be. So that's unusual. Sorry.
What were you saying, Luis?
No, I was just gonna say I didn't think they were a rabbit because, again, like you said, the stride was so long in between each one. But these things are huge. I've never seen, if these are supposed to be almost 11 foot, or a size 11.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big damn rabbit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what this thing is. That she did say that what got her attention was this thing must have been on the roof. They live in a building on the top. She lives on the top floor of a building, and this thing was on the roof. She heard this thing hopping on the roof, and when she started to look outside, it was standing by the fence, and it was moving around the yard like it was chasing something. Now, it had the wings were spread out at some point, and she was able to compare it to the fence and the large double gate. So maybe I'll get some more information. Hopefully I'm going to have some more by tomorrow, so I can get it up on the blog. But it's just another mystery associated with what's been going on out there. And, the fact that we may have a UFO possible alien connection with this phenomena, let alone all the sightings in and around O'Hare. And of course, we've had sightings, about a 250 mile radius beyond Chicago. It's just, it's just another piece of the puzzle, I guess. So Marcus, were you able to see those?
I did see those.
What's
and I'm not sure who. Well, I'm puzzled. I really am. I'm not sure if it was Lou or one of the other team members. But y'all were commenting, and I thought I kind of saw this too. That on the backside, the thought that went through my mind, and you guys will probably laugh when I use this, but you know how like a rooster has that spur?
Yeah, the spur, and that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
That's kind of what flashed through my mind when I saw them, because, the whole thing was odd, the way they were, laid out. But then I looked toward that backside, and I'm like, because there was a mark in the snow there, and I'm like, no, I couldn't wrap my head around it. But the first thing that went through my head was like a spur, like from a, from a rooster or a chicken or something like that.
Well, it is strange, and hopefully I'm going to get a little more on this. So, I wanted to bring it up, see what you guys thought about it, but who knows? But anyway, I did get
it's still at the beginning stages.
Oh yeah. It's just like everything else. We're still trying to figure out what's been going on out there, and I think we're gonna be hearing a lot of stuff over the next whenever. We never imagined this thing would continue the way it did. The first thing we thought of, well, it's Chicago, the winters come, this thing's not going to show up because of the weather. And lo and behold, last winter we started getting a bunch of sightings, and it's kind of run into this winter too. These sightings in and around Chicago, around the airport, started on October 1st, and since then we've had, God, how many sightings? 8 or 9 sightings in
yeah, something like that.
So I don't know. It's just anything else. So who knows? We get involved in this kind of thing. You never know what to expect. So I have a question in the chat room. Someone asked, Joseph asked, if there have been any Boggy Creek sightings lately. Now, I have had some sightings in Arkansas. I had a witness call me the other day about a sighting north of Falk. And I have over the years received other sightings. I don't know. Now, you're in Mississippi, Marcus. Have you heard of anything in that direction?
Actually, I have. I have one of my best friends. He's not an investigator, like us or anything like that. But he loves the mystery, and he enjoys. I guess, I think he vicariously, deals with or goes on, the Bigfooting expeditions and paranormal investigations that I go through, because he doesn't want to get attacked or eaten by Bigfoot. So he's like, okay, yeah, you go ahead. We'll you go ahead. You get ate up by mosquitoes, and I'll stay back here, and then you can call me and tell me about it if you make it back. And I'm like, yeah, sure, thanks a lot. But anyway, he got a wild hair, and the wife went off in one direction, and she's like, yeah, sure, go do whatever you want to do. So he grabbed a couple of his buddies, and they did a road trip to Falk. They actually drove to Falk, and this was right toward, I think it was toward the end of last year. And when they got there, of course, they went to the Monster Mart, and they met the owner, and in the process of going through the shop and everything, they asked the owner, hey, are there still sightings and all like that, that take place around here? And this guy proceeded to tell him that just within the last week, that someone had seen something, down close to the river. So yeah, and I kind of keep up with Lyle Blackburn's work, and according to him, and from what little bit I'm actually getting from people that are in the Falk area. I have another lady who she's not on the field team, with myself and Doug Randall and Karen Randall with Invest. Mm-hmm. But she's like a member of our little group. She has her own group over in Texas. But she goes out into the field and researches, and she's actually from the Falk area. And we'll get to picking and joking with each other on Facebook and stuff. But I'll have to ask her if she's heard anything. But to answer the question from the chat room, the activity in and around Falk is very much still taking place. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I've got Lyle coming on the show in about a month. He's got a new book coming out, so I don't know. Quite frankly, I don't even know what the book's about, but I know he's been in Falk a lot lately. Now, of course, he did the narration on Seth Breedlove's Boggy Creek film from a year and a half ago, and of course, he's down there all the time. So, I'm going to ask him about that and what he's been finding down in that area. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I have like I said, I receive reports occasionally from Arkansas, and I do have this one I'm looking into now. And in fact, I got one today from a little town not far from Baton Rouge, something that's making a hell of a racket near this little town. So hopefully I'm going to get some photos from Mara. The woman said she actually did see a large nest of some type that was built in the area. And there seems to be, from what she told me, there's an abandoned house out in the scrub, out in the woods, that people think that this thing is actually hiding in occasionally. So there's something going on out there. So hopefully I can get some more information about that. Now, we had another question about spirit orbs and, of course, the connection with cryptids. And is it possible that these cryptids may be producing this orb phenomena? Well, frankly, I believe they do. And I've said before on the show that, this is something that we've been noticing in recent years with Bigfoot activity, that there does seem to be some corresponding orb activity as well, even after a couple days after a sighting. This orb phenomena seems to stay in the area. And of course, Tobias mentioned earlier that up at Kettle Moraine, they've had that as well. So, have any of you experienced that as far or heard that in any other sightings that you've been involved with? How about it, Lou? Have you heard of that before?
No, I haven't.
How about it, Marcus?
I've heard of it. I personally have not witnessed it, but again, one of the primary focuses that researcher and investigator M.K. Davis focuses on, and I think there's I personally agree with it and have seen it myself. There's a lot of credence in a connection between Bigfoot and Native American Indian ground. I think I stated on the other show that there is a connection between the Native American Indians and Bigfoot. I think they came up side by side with each other, and MK has related cases to me, or instances where orbs and lights have been seen around Indian mounds, either before or after a Bigfoot sighting has taken place around Indian mounds. So I've heard of it. I haven't witnessed it myself, but Lord knows I've had plenty of weird activity around Indian mounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right, Lon. There are cases out there of that happening. Sure.
How about Tobias? Do you think? I'm pretty sure you believe there's a connection.
I mean, yes, absolutely. I just find it really difficult to believe that you would have this anomalous phenomena happening in such tight window areas, and that it just wouldn't be connected somehow. Especially considering some of the other seemingly paranormal aspects of cryptid, sighting reports. I mean, I had a lady I talked to, it was last year sometime, and she had seen these this series of white lights up on this mountaintop, and in the same area she had seen it. I don't know if it was like a time slip, but it was really it more than anything seemed like this out of place, out of time, really, like bonfire with indigenous people around it, and then later she has this Bigfoot sighting. And so, and this is one of those sightings where this thing just seemingly vanished, and so you look at all of those connective like aspects, and you have to ask yourself, like, well, okay, if that's not connected somehow, then what is going on? Like, what are all of these different various like mechanisms that are all somehow disparate but replicating a phenomena that is so similar, So yeah, I don't know what that connection is, but yeah, I can't believe that it's a coincidence.
I think it seems at this point now that every cryptid phenomena that we have been investigating for years now, be it Bigfoot, upright canines, dogman, or whatever you want to call it, the winged humanoids, there does seem to be this interdimensional or other reality aspect sneaking in there somehow. Mm-hmm. We've all heard of these beings suddenly appearing or suddenly disappearing, without a trace. I mean, just a quick manifestation or this thing suddenly disappearing or vanishing somehow. So I think the cryptid world is becoming more open-minded. I do believe more of the strictly flesh and blood people are kind of thinking a little bit more now, like maybe something is definitely going on with this phenomena. I don't know. It is an enigma. So I guess the best thing I can say is just keep plugging, keep taking reports, and maybe we'll find something that will kind of jive, and hopefully we'll get some proof.
That would be great.
Yeah, it would be. So you guys, we're about ready to end the show. So let me start with Lou. Is there anything you want to mention before we go?
Just that I'll be up in like I mentioned, in Gettysburg, hopefully in May. Hoping to meet up with you and Butch, and I think maybe we can get Eric Altman up there as well. And we can shoot some more stories and, just talk about the general area. I mean, I know out here in California, mostly I investigate areas around Hollywood at the moment, but it's kind of quiet when it comes to UFOs, except by Santa Monica. I think one of you guys investigates UFOs and off the beaches of Santa Monica by a certain Coast Guard station. People have been seeing things coming in and out of the water over there, so I'm trying to make my way over there and see what's going on.
Yeah, in fact, my friend Brett, she's been telling me that she has been talking to people that have experiencing a lot of phenomena in the Santa Monica area. So, and of course, all the UFO activity off Catalina and Santa Barbara and such. I mean, there just seems to be a lot of weird stuff going on out there, let alone the Tic Tac incidents that were reported recently. So who knows? Yeah. I mean, maybe we'll get some more. So Marcus, what's going on with you, and what are you going to be looking into?
Well, again, just recently, I just recently became a field investigator for MUFON, and again, this case that happened here in Yazoo City back in the 70s, that's kind of got my attention right now. Again, because the weather's so bad, and Invest, my Bigfoot group, we haven't been able to to really get in the field because it's just been it's either been pouring down rain, freezing cold, just toggling back and forth. So, I'm just kind of waiting. I think me and Doug and Karen and, MK, he's like all over the place. Yeah. So, I think we're just kind of waiting for, I don't know, spring, something to clear. So maybe we can get out in the woods and see what's going on. But, to kind of tide me over, I guess, till something does break as far as getting outdoors. I'm really, this UFO case really has my undivided attention, and that's been very, it's been fruitful looking into it so far. And I think there's witnesses, and hopefully, I don't have a whole lot I can tell you guys just at the moment, but hopefully, I will. Hopefully I'll have something that will really excite you guys.
Well, hopefully I can start getting some cases to send out to y'all. It just hasn't, it's kind of early yet. You guys haven't been with the group that long. But like I will distribute cases that I do receive to the people in the field, and hopefully we'll get some answers to some of this stuff. And Tobias, well, you and I have been plugging at this now for over 2 years, so we know how that goes. So, all you guys, I appreciate you being on the team. I appreciate you coming on the show, and I will be talking to y'all soon.
Yeah, thanks, Lon.
Cool.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Good night. So, If you have an unexplained encounter setting, feel free to contact me through the Phantoms Monsters blog site. If you're interested in supporting Phantoms Monsters and Arcane Radio, you can use the PayPal donation buttons on the blog or newsletter, or go directly to PayPal and use my email, lonstrickler@phantomsmonsters.com. Your continued support is truly appreciated. I want to again thank Tobias, Marcus, and Lou for joining me this evening, and I want to thank you for listening to the show. Good night, and have a safe and enjoyable weekend.